Welcome to the Year 13 Parents' Evening 2020. Myself and Mrs. Mounsey are going to talk you through practicalities, studies, exams and futures for Year 13. As you will know, your child is studying 3 or 4 subjects, and there is also independent study. Typically they would have a study session for this, but at the moment they are going home. We understand that a lot of you want to stay in school for your study sessions, and we understand that some of you are at a distance. So those at a distance are able to stay, but over the next weeks, months, as the situation sort of develops, we will review this, but obviously at the moment safety has to be our priority. The only other key lesson that students must be in for is personal development on a Thursday at 9:50. It's really important they're on site for 9:45, so they're ready to register. And as you'll know, personal development is our new subject, a revised subject on the curriculum this year, looking at life skills and preparing the students for life after school. We're looking at politics, we're looking at careers, media literacy, health, and sort of making sure students are ready to move on to the next steps in their life. So with regards to COVID-19, obviously I have already mentioned study sessions and students going home, and this obviously can be reviewed soon. In terms of lunch times and break times, they are staggered, and sixth form have specific areas which they can go to, and the students know where they're going. With regards to masks, they're currently wearing those indoors and in Starbucks. We're aiming to keep normality as much as possible, but obviously health is our priority. I'd like to talk then through studies and how we can support your students going forward. So there are a number of frameworks, but really our expectations for this year just haven't changed. We still want our students to be committed to their studies. We still want to see that they are working independently and they are striving to achieve their potential. And with this obviously comes attendance and making sure that they are in lessons and they are punctual and they are not missing any work. So I just wanted to remind you some key statistics. So 90% attendance sounds good, but that means you have missed one day every single fortnight. At 85% attendance, you would have missed roughly a month of school, which is huge. And obviously we will intervene should this be the case. And we are doing weekly monitoring, both with a form tutor, myself and Mrs. Mounsey, to make sure that we support those students to make sure they are in school every day. Aspire is another framework which we use. It ensures that students know the best behaviours and the best practices to ensuring that they are successful both in school and sort of after school as well. It's a tool that helps them audit how they are working, how they are studying, and how they are sort of within themselves in terms of well-being. So the Aspire framework is something that the students are familiar with. We've used it both in Year 12 and Year 13, and this is something that we will continue to use both in personal development and in form times. The memory clock is something that we really encourage the students to use to make sure that they are self-regulating, they are planning, and that they are putting in the effort. Unfortunately, Year 13 flashcards are no longer the only thing that will work. You need to be doing exam practice, you need to be revising, you need to be planning your responses, making sure that you're confident about how you're going to take those responses forward. There have been questions this week about monitoring and how students can make improvements. So I just wanted to remind you of some key dates. Reports and parents' evening are in November, but before that students are able to talk to their teachers both in lessons, by email, and they can find them obviously at break time and lunchtime as well. As parents, if you have any concerns, obviously please do email and get in touch with teachers directly, and we will try and point you in sort of the best direction for your child and their needs. In terms of trial exams, that is in January, but please bear in mind that over this term your student will make progress and that they will be increments and that we'll gradually see improvement. So there are lots of opportunities to sort of prove ourselves, to show commitment, to make sure that we are really striving for our potential.
So we're now well underway with the UCAS process, and the students have been doing really, really well. And we have deadlines coming up. So the soonest one is the 25th of September for the competitive applications, Oxbridge Medicine Veterinary. And the students are being helped with that as we speak. And the 23rd of October, which is the last day of this half term for all of the others. Now, having said that, if a student is really still struggling to make up their mind as to what to apply for, we can extend that October deadline and we can work with the students individually. But we do recommend that they try and meet that deadline because it just clears the way for them to get on with their A-level studies. And tutors are always available for help and advice. There's a lot of them. We do try and get round as many as possible, but the tutors are there and they know them the best. And also the referees. So students should approach their referee personally and ask them to look at their statement. They need to take that on board themselves now, and of course their tutors too. So predicted grades can cause problems every year, and we need to be aspirational and optimistic in those predictions, but they also need to be realistic. And so we shall be using the evidence and the data that we have on our students up until this point, and obviously projecting what they might get this year. And we will open that up for a little bit of discussion with the students within reason, and we'll obviously explain to them how that will happen this week. You will also have received, or will receive shortly, our predicted grade policy. Now, some students don't want to apply to university, which is absolutely understandable, and there are some fantastic alternative pathways, and we've invested a lot here over the last 2 or 3 years into helping those students. Mrs. Boost is our apprenticeship champion, and she's available particularly on Thursday mornings specifically for that purpose, and we will be starting to talk to students now in a lot of detail about that, and we have quite a few activities booked in with support from our apprenticeship organisations. They will be working on their CV at the moment. We have mock interviews booked in and many other things besides. So lots to do there, and do contact us if you've got any query or concern about a student that is going along that pathway, because it can be a little bit more complex than just applying to university. Now, Year 13 is obviously a critical year, and this year group has gone through an experience like no other. What we need to say to you is we are hugely impressed with them, genuinely. They have taken this on board, and as a result, I have to say, I think they're more independent now than we've ever seen a Year 13 before. Currently, all the teachers are working hard to spot any gaps in understanding and making up for any missed learning, of which we don't think there's very much due to the online teaching that we were able to offer. But just to explain, we do have a lot of support here. Obviously, the tutor we've mentioned, the subject staff are key. They know them very well now, and obviously they've got a lot of lessons per week in specific subjects. Miss Cairns, Miss Boost continue to monitor the students when they are in study sessions. I know they're limited, but we'll also be pulling them in for appointments where we need to help with UCAS and many other queries or issues, and then obviously myself, Miss Potter. I also want to mention the bursary. The deadline is the 18th of September, which is coming up very soon, I imagine, when this is published. Do get in touch with us if you want to apply for a bursary or not sure how. We have issued those forms to students, and that can support a student with buying resources, travel and other expenses. Now, exams in 2021, there are some usual advice and some particular advice this year. Sometimes we have requests from a student or parent about things like extra time or access arrangements. That needs to come from teachers, not parents or students, and it's where a teacher has noticed a problem with processing speed, not particularly finishing exams where there's a lack of knowledge or revision, but where there's a genuine processing issue. So if you are concerned about that, do contact us, but be aware, please, there's a really big process to go through and a test, and we would need to look at that quite officially with Miss Borman. Now, we will be publishing the summer timetable when we get it. It won't be too far away, and there may be clashes. We do need to talk to students about that, and they can opt in which order to take their exams, but that needs to be done at the time, like October or November, not next summer. And the exams officer will be in regular contact. So we do ask students to check their email daily for us, but also for things like exams. It's really important from this point. Currently, results day is fixed on the 19th of August. Just making that aware of that really, really far ahead. We can't do anything to help a student unless they're physically really in school, because we're extremely busy, and quite often it involves us all getting on the phone to UCAS. So we would advise that you don't take a holiday at that time unless you're quite happy to deal with it, obviously remotely. Key dates here are projected for exams next year, for example, when they finish. Again, very much subject to change at the moment. You'll hear rumours, perhaps in the papers, about delaying those exams. We haven't heard anything yet, so we have to assume that it is as it is at the moment. But again, anything we get, we will pass on to you. You may also have heard that some exam specifications have changed a little. The changes are quite minor. Every subject has looked at those in detail and will continue to do so as we get more guidance, and the subject teachers will obviously adjust their teaching, and the Deputy Head, Dr. Creeby, is very involved in that at the moment. But there is no big loss of content at A level at this stage. Often parents will ask us for what can they do to help. Obviously the students are quite old now and they're getting very independent, which is really good, but we know they still need a lot of support and advice, and certainly we'll be offering that at school, but it's often you, the family, that really needs to help them. So here's some ideas. Expect mini meltdowns, keep them talking. That's what we do here at school. Talk to them about UCAS or apprenticeship applications if they will. Have a chat with you and help to advise them. For example, have they thought about cost of living, how far it is away from home, how much it's going to cost to get there and indeed stay there. So there's some ideas as parents, fairly obvious ones probably. The key contacts are up here for form tutors if you want to email them directly. And they're a good first port of call for any queries or concerns. If you have more detailed queries, particularly about UCAS, please contact me or Miss Potter. But we're going to also explain now another way of contacting us after this information presentation. Okay, finally then, we do have a Google form link that we've sent to you. So we find usually at this information evening that we have a lot of individual questions about specific issues to do with your son or daughter. So we thought it best if you submit your particular questions on this Google form, and then the most appropriate person from our team will get back to you. Please do allow us a little bit of time to do that. We may get quite a few queries. And we will also consider if there's lots of general common questions, putting an FAQ together. I'm sorry that we can't meet in person, and we know this is a really difficult time in many ways, not being able to meet with so much important things happening with Year 13. But we are very confident that we can manage this, and most importantly it's the students that need to talk to us when they're in every day, to ask questions, to take responsibility, and we can absolutely help them and are doing so at the moment as much as possible. So thank you again for your support, and we will get back to you as soon as we can with any queries. Also, we will update you obviously as the term unfolds about new arrangements for things like parents' evening if they can't go ahead as normal, but we'll have our fingers crossed that things will all get better and we can get back to some normality. Thank you very much.